The story of Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370 is one of the most haunting mysteries in modern aviation history. On March 8, 2014, the Boeing 777-200ER, with 239 people on board, disappeared from radar screens without a trace. What followed was an unprecedented international search effort, spanning years and oceans, yet yielding few concrete answers. The families of those on board have been left in anguish, clinging to hope and demanding answers. The world watched in disbelief as one of the most advanced aircraft of its time seemingly vanished into thin air. In this documentary, we will delve deep into the sequence of events leading up to the disappearance, explore the various theories that have emerged, and dissect the investigations that followed. This is not just a story of a lost plane, but a narrative that challenges our understanding of technology, human error, and the limitations of modern science. March 8, 2014 began like any other day for Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370. The flight was scheduled to depart from Kuala Lumpur International Airport at 12:41 a.m., bound for Beijing, China. The passengers and crew, a mix of nationalities and backgrounds, boarded the plane, unaware that they were about to become part of one of the greatest aviation mysteries of all time. The pre-flight checks were routine, and the weather was favorable. Captain Zahari Ahmad Shah, a seasoned pilot with over 18,000 flight hours, was at the helm, assisted by First Officer Farik Abdul Hamid, who was gaining experience on the Boeing 777. As the plane taxied down the runway and lifted into the night sky, everything appeared normal. The flight progressed as expected, with the aircraft reaching its cruising altitude of 35,000 feet. The passengers settled into their seats, some sleeping, others watching movies, and a few chatting with the flight attendants. In the cockpit, the pilots communicated with air traffic control, following standard procedures as they prepared to cross from Malaysian to Vietnamese airspace. Then, at 1:19 a.m., something inexplicable happened. The final words from the cockpit, "Good night, Malaysian 370, were heard by air traffic control. Just 2 minutes later, at 1:21 a.m., the plane's transponder stopped transmitting. Flight MH370 had disappeared from radar screens, leaving air traffic controllers baffled and concerned. The first signs of trouble were met with confusion rather than alarm. Air traffic controllers in Kuala Lumpur and Ho Chi Minh City attempted to contact the aircraft, but there was no response. At first, it was assumed that the plane had experienced a minor technical glitch and would soon reappear on radar. But as minutes turned into hours, the reality of the situation began to sink in. Flight MH370 was missing, and no one knew why. As daylight broke, the Malaysian authorities launched a search and rescue operation, focusing on the South China Sea, where the plane was last seen on radar. Neighboring countries quickly joined the effort, deploying ships, aircraft, and satellites in a desperate attempt to locate the missing flight. The search area expanded rapidly, but no trace of the aircraft was found. By the end of the first day, the world was gripped by the news of the missing plane, and speculation began to swirl. In the days following the disappearance, new information emerged that would dramatically alter the course of the investigation. It was revealed that the plane's communication systems had been deliberately turned off, and that the aircraft had made a sharp turn to the west, away from its intended flight path. This was a critical discovery, as it suggested that the plane's disappearance was not the result of a simple mechanical failure, but rather a deliberate act. Attention quickly turned to the pilots and crew. Captain Zahari Ahmad Shah, in particular, came under intense scrutiny. Investigators discovered that he had a sophisticated flight simulator at home, which he used to practice various flight scenarios. Some of these scenarios included routes that were eerily similar to the path taken by MH370 after it deviated from its flight plan. The media was quick to label Zahari as the prime suspect, but there was no concrete evidence to support the theory that he had deliberately crashed the plane. Meanwhile, the search area was expanded to include the vast expanse of the Indian Ocean. Satellite data, provided by the British company Inmarsat, indicated that the plane had flown for several hours after losing contact, heading south into one of the most remote regions on Earth. The search for MH370 had become a race against time, as investigators scrambled to locate the aircraft's wreckage before the black box's batteries died, taking with them the last hope of understanding what had happened. The search for MH370 was now focused on a new area, the southern Indian Ocean. This region, known for its rough seas and remote location, presented significant challenges for the search teams. Despite the deployment of cutting-edge technology, including underwater drones and sonar mapping equipment, the search proved fruitless. Weeks turned into months, and still, no trace of the aircraft was found. The lack of concrete evidence fueled wild speculation and conspiracy theories. Some believed that the plane had been hijacked and taken to a secret location, while others suggested that it had been shot down by a rogue state. There were even claims that the plane had been abducted by aliens. The families of the passengers were bombarded with conflicting information, and their grief was compounded by the uncertainty surrounding the fate of their loved ones. Amid the chaos, a multinational investigation team was formed, led by Malaysia, with the assistance of Australia, China, and other countries. The investigators worked tirelessly to piece together the available evidence, but the more they uncovered, the more questions seemed to arise. How could a modern aircraft simply vanish without a trace? What had motivated the person or persons responsible for the plane's disappearance? And most importantly, where was MH370? Chapter 5: The Debris Field. It wasn't until July 2015, more than a year after the disappearance, that a breakthrough was finally made. A piece of aircraft debris, later confirmed to be a flap aileron from MH370, was found washed up on the shores of Réunion Island, a remote French territory in the Indian Ocean. This discovery provided the first tangible evidence that the plane had indeed crashed into the sea, but it also raised new questions. Why had it taken so long for debris to be found? And why was there so little of it? The discovery of the flap aileron reinvigorated the search effort, but it also led to further speculation. Some experts believed that the condition of the flap aileron suggested a controlled ditching of the aircraft, rather than a high-speed crash. Others argued that the debris had been carried by ocean currents from a much larger wreckage field, which had yet to be discovered. The search area was refined based on new drift modeling, but despite extensive efforts, no additional debris was found in the vicinity. Over the next few years, more pieces of debris were discovered along the coastlines of Africa and the Indian Ocean islands. These fragments, including parts of the aircraft's interior and other control surfaces, were painstakingly analyzed by experts. Each new find provided a small piece of the puzzle, but the central mystery remained unsolved. The wreckage of MH370, and with it the answers to what happened that night, continued to elude investigators. Chapter 6: Theories and Speculations. As the search for MH370 dragged on, various theories emerged to explain the disappearance. Some were grounded in science and logic, while others veered into the realm of conspiracy. Among the most prominent theories was the idea that the plane had suffered a catastrophic failure, such as a fire or decompression, which incapacitated the crew and passengers. In this scenario, the aircraft would have continued to fly on autopilot until it ran out of fuel and crashed into the ocean. Another theory suggested that the plane had been deliberately taken off course by one of the pilots, possibly as part of a suicide mission. Supporters of this theory pointed to the deliberate disabling of the communication systems and the erratic flight path as evidence of foul play. However, no motive was ever established, and the theory remained speculative. A more controversial theory proposed that the plane had been hijacked by unknown individuals with the intent of using it for a future terrorist attack. According to this theory, the hijackers had taken the plane to a remote location, where it was hidden or destroyed. While this theory captured the imagination of many, it was ultimately dismissed by most experts due to the lack of supporting evidence. As the years passed, the theories became increasingly outlandish. Some claimed that the plane had been shot down by a rogue state to prevent a potential terrorist attack, while others suggested that it had been abducted by aliens or disappeared into a black hole. These theories, while intriguing, were widely regarded as fanciful and without basis in reality. Chapter 7: The Official Investigation. In the years following the disappearance of MH370, multiple investigations were conducted by various agencies, including the Malaysian government, the Australian Transport Safety Bureau, ATSB, and independent aviation experts. These investigations sought to piece together the available evidence and provide a plausible explanation for the plane's disappearance. The official investigation report, released in 2018, concluded that the disappearance was likely due to a combination of human and technical factors, but it stopped short of definitively identifying the cause. The report acknowledged that the plane's communication systems had been deliberately turned off, but it was unable to determine who was responsible or why. The report also noted the possibility of a hypoxia event, in which the crew and passengers were incapacitated due to a lack of oxygen, but it could not confirm this theory. The investigation also highlighted several shortcomings in the search effort, including delays in launching the search and coordination issues between the various countries involved. The report called for improvements in global aviation safety and recommended the adoption of new technologies to improve the tracking of aircraft in real time. Despite the extensive efforts of the investigation teams, the report left many questions unanswered. The families of the passengers and crew were left frustrated by the lack of closure, and the mystery of MH370 continued to haunt the aviation community. Chapter 8: The search ends, but the mystery remains. By 2017, the search for MH370 had become the most expensive in aviation history, costing over $150 million and covering an area of more than 120,000 square kilometers. Despite the vast resources deployed, the main wreckage of the plane was never found. In January 2017, the search was officially called off, leaving the mystery unsolved. The decision to end the search was met with disappointment and anger from the families of the victims, who had hoped for answers. Some called for the search to be continued, arguing that the plane could still be found with the right resources and technology. However, the authorities maintained that all reasonable efforts had been made, and that the likelihood of finding the plane was now extremely low. In the years that followed, various private companies and independent researchers attempted to locate the wreckage, but their efforts were largely unsuccessful. The story of MH370 became a cautionary tale, highlighting the challenges of searching for a missing plane in the vast and remote areas of the world. The disappearance of MH370 remains one of the greatest unsolved mysteries of our time. Despite the best efforts of investigators, the exact sequence of events that led to the plane's disappearance remains unknown. For the families of the passengers and crew, the lack of closure is a constant source of pain and frustration. For the aviation community, the mystery of MH370 is a reminder of the limits of technology and the enduring uncertainty of human life. As we bring this documentary to a close, the story of Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370 continues to resonate around the world. The disappearance of 239 souls has left a void that may never be filled, and the questions surrounding the incident remain unanswered. The search for MH370 has taught us many lessons about the complexities of aviation, the unpredictability of life, and the resilience of the human spirit. We encourage you to share this documentary, subscribe to our channel, and join us as we continue to explore the mysteries of our world. Together, we can keep the memory of those lost on Flight MH370 alive and continue the search for the truth.